The options traditional car companies are now facing are horrific. They are on board the Titanic, fully aware that it's going down, and all they have in their life-raft is a mountain of debt, unprofitable mediocre electric cars, useless out-of-date engine factories, and in most cases a blind captain who won't admit the ship's sinking. ICE car sales are plummeting around the world, emission standards are getting stricter, the banning of engines altogether is looming, and consumers are gradually figuring out that electric vehicles are way cheaper to run and maintain, more enjoyable to drive, cleaner and greener, and are finally getting cheaper thanks to some decent competition and Tesla starting an EV price war recently. Traditional car companies, in hindsight, probably needed to start thinking of switching to EVs roughly 10 years ago, or in General Motors' case, they were already well on track 20 years ago with their EV1 electric car. What a shame they demanded them all back from their owners, who loved their cars dearly, and then had them crushed in a scrapyard. Perhaps in an alternative universe, General Motors are doing extraordinarily well, but instead, like other companies, GM have done all they can to cling on to their old business model of selling people gas-guzzling, polluting-producing, inefficient, outdated consumer money pits. But it's clear now that if they want to survive, they first need to admit there's a problem, identify the problem, and fix it. So here's my 3 simple steps to survival for traditional car companies. Step 1. Admit there's a problem. Car companies have had it so easy over the past 100 years, with the slow incremental improvements of cup holders and pretty lights. Profits have been steadily trickling in and everybody's happy. Well, apart from the 1 million plus people who die each year on our roads thanks to dumb cars that don't yet know how to avoid accidents, plus the roughly 4 million people who die each year from air pollution around the world, partly caused by that dear old coughing, spluttering, poison-producing engine. But other than those inconvenient truths, onwards and upwards for traditional car companies. There's just one major problem that's been ignored and ridiculed for almost 20 years now. Can you guess who that is? It's Tesla. Who would have thought it on this channel? Well, you might be new here and wondering what all the fuss is about with Tesla. Here's a few points as to why they are dominating the car industry. Tesla produces some of the industry's highest profit margin vehicles on sale today, yet have recently announced how they have reimagined how to build a car from the ground up with their next generation vehicles at half the manufacturing cost of building their current Model 3s. This will result in a bucket load of future profits. Tesla are also working with urgency towards solving autonomy, to go towards saving those millions of unnecessary lives lost thanks to human error and dumb cars, whilst the rest of the industry has done literally nothing to improve safety since the humble seatbelt was forced upon them to include back in the 1960s. It's fair to conclude that traditional car companies have for some time now been asleep at the wheel and heading towards a cliff.
Look out! Cliff!
Yet try driving off a 250-foot cliff in a Tesla and you might just well survive like this family of 4 did, thanks to Tesla's relentless pursuit of safety in cars. Although that particular story does get a bit darker, feel free to have a look into it. Autonomy is also a huge disruptive technology, which means cars without it will soon be deader than the metaverse. As Tesla has all the data from its fleet of 4 million plus cars on the road, and as other companies working on autonomy have actually given up because it's such a difficult problem to solve, there will only be one winner, and that winner, according to ARK Invest amongst others, will be at the forefront of an industry worth $14 trillion by 2027. For Tesla, this will again result in a shed-load of future profits. And then there's the world's largest supercharger network, battery storage solutions for homes and utility-scale projects, car insurance, future Tesla bots, which have the potential of taking on the entire global labour market. Oh, is that all? On and on Tesla goes, mopping up the world's best engineers to go work for a company that's not just transitioning the world to sustainable energy, but giving hope to what has otherwise seemed at times a hopeless future. Did I mention all these things will bring in a shitload of future profits? These brutal facts should be whipping up the car industry to innovate like they've never innovated before. And quite honestly, the great big kick up the arse they've needed since the last incredible innovation in car manufacturing. The Ford Model T production line, and that was 115 years ago for goodness sake. Step 2. Identify the problem. The main problem all car manufacturers have today is this cold harsh truth. It is impossible to compete with Tesla, precisely because they have been innovating like crazy for decades now, and have mostly been ignored. Tesla are way too far ahead in terms of innovation and manufacturing capabilities, and that's before their next-gen vehicles and factories are built, which could well be up and running by the end of 2024. These cars will be running off the production line at a cost no other manufacturer could even dream of, and will have the best performance, efficiency, safety, technology, features and functionality to boot. Most people still don't understand. Tesla started this EV race almost 20 years ago. Everybody else is still practically at the starting line. Like it or not, nobody is catching Tesla. Let me be clear though, I don't want to see a future where only Teslas exist. Healthy competition is great for the consumer. I want them all to survive, and I sincerely hope that people can keep their jobs in car manufacturing around the world, but I fear they won't. We may already be at the point where it is too little too late from these legacy automakers. Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, if you don't know who Stellantis are, they own this lot, Volkswagen, Toyota, many others, should have been acting with urgency to switch to EVs since 2012. This was the release date of Tesla's Model S, the first truly excellent electric car, with space for 5 adults, 265-mile range, literally ludicrous performance, groundbreaking software, over-the-air updates, and the best safety rating of any car ever tested. The original Model S won countless awards around the world, and guess what? Instead of standing still, Tesla has carried on innovating at insane levels and have now got to a point where they've reimagined how to build cars and are changing the very idea of car ownership entirely with future robo-taxis, something that most people are blissfully unaware of. And what have these legacy car companies done to innovate and push the boundaries of manufacturing?
Nothing! Absolutely nothing!
Toyota has only recently torn down a Tesla Model Y to see what all the fuss is about and described it as truly a work of art, whereas Tesla describes it as dumb compared to how they will be building cars going forward. Ford has split its business into two so that the engine side of things can die a slow death, whilst the new electric side of the business can slowly grow towards being profitable again, someday. Meanwhile, General Motors CEO Mary Barra can't even bring herself to say the word Tesla in countless interviews when she's asked to acknowledge the obvious industry leaders. GM even partnered with no less than 2 fraudulent companies, Lordstown Motors and Nikola Motors. Their recent massively hyped up Ultium battery technology has already been shelved in favour of using Tesla's 4680 format cylindrical cells. Then there's Volkswagen, who will soon have a staggering $384 billion of debt. That's over $1/3 trillion. To put that into context, that's more debt than most countries. But don't look at that, look at this, something shiny and new. Volkswagen's ID2 concept car coming soon in 2026. With profit margins so thin, it begs the question, how will Volkswagen ever pay off that teeny tiny loan? These companies should have been working out how to get enough batteries for millions of future EVs. They should have been hiring incredible engineers to design and produce their next generation of vehicles from the ground up in order to offer a car that can compete with a Tesla, so they can at least one day compete in terms of efficiency, tech, performance, range, profitability, and all the things that matter. But no, like Volkswagen have just done, ignore all that truly important stuff, grab an old Golf design off the wall, make a huge song and dance and hypnotic light show about Volkswagen's glorious history, and fool consumers into thinking they've come up with something revolutionary. This will not end well for most car companies. But is there any hope? Yes, step 3, fix it. Copy Tesla. It almost sounds too simple, doesn't it? If these traditional car giants want to be profitable and ultimately survive into the future, that's the only way. Follow Tesla's lead in driving down its cost to produce electric cars, given that EVs are at this point undoubtedly the only cars people will be buying in the future. Copy their vertical integration, as in make car parts, motors, seats, glass, batteries, chips, electronics, all in-house. Make your own software. Build out your own global supercharger network. That would be helpful. Revolutionise the manufacturing process of how to build cars more efficiently. Get rid of dealership networks, which nobody enjoys using anyway. Sell your cars online like everything else nowadays. Stop wasting money on advertising. Try building compelling electric cars that people actually want, that work well, and that they can afford. Oh, and you may as well close down your worldwide factories that build ICE cars right now, as no one in their right mind will want to buy an inferior product that costs them way more money in the long run. With stricter emissions regulations coming in soon, many of these models of vehicles will not be allowed to be sold in some of the world's largest car markets, China and Europe for example. And while you're at it, think of the inevitable future autonomy of cars and start equipping your vehicles with cameras and hardware to support that someday. That way, you future-proof millions of vehicles you build now and will be able to adapt to a whole new world of autonomy and software as a service revenue someday. No cameras now equals dumb future cars. But what do I know? I'm just some idiot on YouTube who thinks he can see the future through his crystal ball. Well, let's revisit this video in 2030 and see how things pan out for traditional car companies, shall we? Unless they've managed to not only pull a rabbit out of a hat, but a compelling EV out of a rabbit, I'm not sure how they're going to survive. They will either be bankrupt and bailed out, merged with other companies, or limping on a fraction of their former glory. Governments may end up bailing them out with your hard-earned taxpayers' money, while the CEOs and executives quickly sell their shares and vacate the sinking ship on their little life rafts, long before they are held accountable for their incompetence and disastrous lack of action and real leadership that will lead to millions of workers losing their jobs around the world. I'm certainly glad I don't work for any of these dinosaur car companies, let alone be a shareholder or have my pension pot tied up with them. But if I did, I'd be paying serious attention to their finances going forward and wondering how on earth they will see out the end of the Ice Age without going extinct. Will any traditional car company survive? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm Will, this is the Tesla Jigsaw, and I thank you for watching.